Breaking now, a criminal court hearing just wrapped for suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. This is video of him inside a Harris County courtroom this morning. This is a status hearing on a securities fraud indictment from 2015.
And our Marcelino Benito was inside the courtroom during today's hearing.
Yeah, he's joining us live from the Harris County Courthouse. Marcelino, tell us what you saw and what you heard this morning.
Well, guys, let's start with the beginning. We were here since 7 a.m. waiting for suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton to make his arrival here at the courthouse. We had cameras all over this building, but the judge deciding to allow the suspended Attorney General to come in the back door, to come into the courtroom another way. So our cameras didn't actually see him walk into the courtroom. When we were actually allowed inside the courtroom, he was already sitting there in the front row seat, wearing a light blue suit with his team of attorneys. It was a fairly brief court appearance, took about 10 to 15 minutes. He did no talking, sat there most of the time, and his attorneys, along with prosecutors, really spoke to Judge Andrea Bell, the Harris County District Criminal Court judge that is now tasked with overseeing this case that, as you mentioned, has been going on since 2015. So a couple of highlights from that very short court appearance. The defense and prosecutors agreed that, of course, we have this impeachment trial looming. They want to wait. There was no trial date set. There were some questions whether a trial date would be set at this appearance, but both prosecutors and defense attorneys agreed with that impeachment trial looming on September 5th. They want to wait for that case to be resolved. They want to see what happens in Austin when it comes to impeachment before setting a trial date. So both sides agreed to return to the criminal courthouse here on October 6th. At that court appearance, they will discuss some pretrial motions and ideally, if the impeachment trial is resolved, set a trial date. We just listened to prosecutors who spoke to reporters after this appearance. They tell us that they are pretty happy with that decision. They both agree that whatever happens in the impeachment trial will have a significant impact on this criminal trial here in Harris County. Also, I should mention there's a federal investigation ongoing into the suspended Attorney General, and both sides telling the judge that they believe whatever happens with that federal investigation could also have a large impact on how things play out here in Harris County. Tidbit of information just to speak on the length of this criminal procedure since these charges were filed in 2015. You'll recall this indictment came down in Collin County in 2015. We're talking about allegations of criminal conduct that occurred in 2011. So it has been more than a decade since these allegations were actually made. But we should mention that it's been so long, prosecutors letting defense attorneys and the judge know they have handed over 19 boxes of evidence to the defense team, 19 boxes of evidence, and a lot of that evidence included CD-ROMs. And that gives you a sense of just how old this case is, that a lot of that evidence and information in this case is actually kept on CD-ROMs. So again, very short, brief court appearance, nothing said by the suspended Attorney General. He left out the back as well, so our cameras did not see him leave the courtroom. And we should also mention he was escorted by about 12 DPS troopers who brought him in the back. But again, no more moves on this case, no appearance until October 6th, when ideally both sides believe that impeachment trial should be wrapped up. Guys?
Yeah, and possibly on October 6th, another appearance by Paxton. You know, this lasted less than 10 minutes, Marcelino. I know it went by quickly. We did hear from the two special prosecutors as they were heading into the courtroom. Did you hear from Paxton's attorneys?
Paxton's attorneys did not speak at all, at least not on camera. So we didn't hear from them at all, except for what we overheard their discussions with the trial judge. I can tell you that up there, both sides said or were talking to the judge, and the judge made it clear that a trial date, once it's set, ideally in October, would not happen until at least January or February, just because of how many cases are on the criminal court docket here in Harris County. So if and when this does go to trial, it won't be until January or February, the earliest, of 2024.
All right, Marcelino, thank you so much.
All right, let's go to KHOU 11 political analyst Brandon Roninghouse now. He's joining us live in the studio this morning. So, Brandon, were you surprised by any of this today?
I was a little surprised by how quickly the judge went through this. I figured they'd have a little bit more discussion about some of the timing of this. After all, this has been a case that's been in the courts since 2015, since even before Donald Trump announced for president. So it's been a long time.
I wanted to ask you about how this will affect his political career. He has this impending impeachment trial. He's obviously got this criminal trial that's underway now. There are so many components and so many issues that have sort of plagued his career, and yet he was reelected twice. I mean, will he still have the same political clout now that everything is kind of underway with this criminal investigation and the impeachment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the bloom is off the rose for the Attorney General. I mean, the fact is that he's been through these political issues, he's been through these legal issues, and it's causing, I think, a lot of Republicans to think twice about exactly how much they want to support him. His fundraising is still strong, but I think that you're going to likely see that wane a little bit, as we've seen in the past. Obviously, politically, the impeachment's going to weigh him down too, so there's definitely a lot at stake for him politically here, and I think like a lot of other Republicans who are in a similar position, you're going to find him essentially hemorrhaging support and looking for a way to be able to try to get that footing back.
Let's go back to legally now. Does this trial affect the impeachment trial? Does the impeachment trial affect this? I mean, other than the scheduling part, is there any kind of connection there?
I think that this trial will certainly have an effect on the impeachment, because the impeachment story is really about them still having to collect a lot of that fact. And so this is going to be a trial where there's going to be a lot of fact. And so you're going to see people testifying, you're going to see witnesses discussing what happened. So these things are all going to be part of what the impeachment managers use as evidence against Ken Paxton. So I do think you're going to see this trial affecting what happens there.
So we talked a little bit about Paxton's personal political career, but will this change the dynamics of the GOP party in Texas? Because Paxton is one of the most prominent attorneys general in the country. Yeah. He has sued both the Obama and Biden administrations. He's also a very, very close Trump ally. Will this change the dynamics of the party here?
I do think you're going to see this really affect how the GOP is viewed in Texas, but also outside of Texas. The Attorney General's office has been the tip of the spear for so many of these cases, and that's been the kind of way that Republicans have been able to attack Joe Biden and before that Barack Obama. So this is definitely one of those moments where the residual effect of the politics of this is going to have a significant effect on elections in Texas.
Now put yourself in the shoes of the judge today, a Democratic judge, and then you have these attorneys saying, let's delay things. What's going through her mind? What went through her mind this morning?
I think that they're probably worried about making mistakes and or worried about delays that are coming. Like I said, this has been a trial that's been in the works for years, and what they don't want to have happen is for more procedural hiccups to get in the way. I think that a lot of people in the legal system want to see this trial happen and then have it behind them. And even though politically it hasn't had a major effect on Ken Paxton, I think Republicans writ large are looking for a way to be able to move past this. They want to talk about the issues that are going to affect people. They want to talk about their message instead of having to be reactive to what happens to Ken Paxton.
Yeah, some people could argue that it's been advantageous for Paxton to have these delays, to have this come after 8 years, because he was able to be reelected and he's kind of pushed some of his agendas for the state. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
And all those delays led to the impeachment.
Yes.
That's right. That's really, and scandals don't hit like they used to. You're still definitely in a position where there's a lot of things that are at stake for these elected officials, but they don't have the same kind of impact as they used to. So he's able to survive these things despite all of the kind of legal morass.
All right. Thank you so much, political analyst Brandon Rottinghouse from U of H. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. We're going to go now to KHOU 11 legal analyst Carmen Rowe, who is joining us live. Carmen, this was a very quick appearance in the courthouse. I believe it was less than 10 minutes for all of this to sort of unfold. Tell us exactly what happened, and was that expected for today?
Good morning. Yes, I think it was expected. I'm not surprised at all that it went quickly. The purpose today was really just to figure out what's going to happen going forward. Can this case be set for trial, or do we need to wait for the impeachment hearing to go forward? And I think we now know the answer, that they're going to wait.
Carmen, I'm going to put you on hold for just a moment. We're hearing from Paxton's attorneys, or let's listen into that and we'll come right back to you.
Well, we can't say that in a woke time, can we? The alphas in the community in terms of legal hierarchy. So history would teach us that if the feds are going to prosecute an individual, that typically the state will step down or step aside.
Dan, how will the impeachment trial affect the criminal case?
Well, logically, if Ken prevails, we'll go forward. If Ken loses, that's a kill shot to his political career, so it opens the door for resolution, and it's not open right now.
Resolution like settlement, plea bargain?
Dismissal, settlement, resolution, who knows?
And you said it was a little difficult to hear in the courtroom today. Did you say that you believe that the federal case is ongoing or on hold?
No, I believe that they're still investigating witnesses. I think that case, it will go nowhere at the end of the day because I'm familiar with the facts, but they're still investigating.
Why did Paxton go through the back way? He didn't come out like
He's under a gag order. That's why. And he's got this lawyer with really bad hair, meaning me, that told him to go out the back way.
So it's not about getting special treatment?
I'm about getting special treatment. I'd tell any client to do that.
What's the best outcome for you all in this?
The best outcome for us is either a dismissal or we prevail at trial. But again, we got to figure out what happens at the impeachment trial first.
If he's impeached in the Senate, would you expect to try to settle this case, or?
It's too early to tell, but logically, if he's impeached in the Senate, he would have greater motivation to resolve this case on whatever basis, because his political career, one would think, would be dead.
What are your odds based on the evidence you all have?
You're asking a man that's been married 4 times to predict odds? No, I ain't going there.
Since pay is an issue in this case, can you tell us who's paying you guys?
Not enough.
But who?
Ken Paxton paid us.
Personal? Personal capacity?
I didn't check the bank. I don't know. But I've been paid less than Mr. Weiss has been paid. I know that much.
Dan, a lot of people are asking, many people are asking, is this ever going to trial? It's been going on for 8 years now.
You know, that's a good question. But what's happened in this case, and I've told Ken this, I've never seen what's happened in this case happen in other cases. I mean, over and over again, from a judge who presided over the original grand jury texting his wife, we got him, to a judge, another judge granting a change of venue based on Facebook posts, to, I mean, just on and on and on. I've never seen anything like it. So to your point, it's really impossible to lay odds or predict on what's going to happen in this case, because history has not been a great teacher.
Are we
Do you
close,
think he'll
though?
get a
Are we
fair
close,
trial
though?
here?
I don't know. I mean, look, this case, I know some of y'all, but the majority of y'all I've never seen on this case before. The impeachment trial has lit up the attention on this case substantially, which is going to bring it to the mind of the jurors that they wouldn't have probably been aware of it before, so who knows?
Would you object to Collin County taxpayers paying the prosecutor's bill, or are you okay with that?
Oh, I think every lawyer should get paid, even Mr. Weiss and Mr. Schaefer, but I think Collin County needs to pay that bill, and I think the fee structure needs to be as detailed and dictated by the Court of Criminal Appeals and the fee structure in place. I'm not against lawyers getting paid. That'd be rather hypocritical of me, wouldn't it?
You said you expect the impeachment trial to last a couple of weeks. Mr. Busby has talked about it lasting forever and ever, and which one is it at this point? You guys are on the same side there?
Well, I love Tony. He's a great lawyer, but we don't always agree on everything, and he has his opinion and I have mine. So, look, they've allowed each side 24 hours aside. So, I don't know how that goes on weeks and weeks, but I'm bad at math. That's why I'm a lawyer.
Did you think it was necessary for your client to have to appear in person today?
Look, I think that's fine. All my other clients have to appear in person, so I'm not begrudged that the judge said he has to appear in person. He's not special. Just because he's got a special lawyer doesn't mean he's special. I'm getting out of here, y'all.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Right, sir.
All right, we've been listening to Dan Cogdell, one of the best-known attorneys here in Houston, one of Ken Paxton's attorneys, talking about what happened in court today, saying he has no predictions about what could happen in this trial here in Houston, but he also says that what happens in the impeachment trial next month could affect what happens in this case. Perhaps a dismissal, perhaps a settlement, we don't know. But that was Dan Cogdell, one of Ken Paxton's lawyers this morning.
All right, let's go back to KHOU 11 legal analyst Carmen Rowe. Carmen, I don't know if you were able to hear that interview, but as Ron just summarized, Dan Cogdell talking about how the upcoming impeachment trial might affect this criminal case, and also asking, will this ever go to trial? I know that the judge set a date for October 6th, and that hearing might determine a trial date, but is it going to even happen then?
No, I don't think this case ever sees the inside of a courtroom in a trial setting. The truth is just what Dan Cogdell said. If this case is something that can be resolved, it will be. And if he's impeached in the Senate, there's no question this case gets resolved outside of a trial. If he prevails in the Senate, I think there's a real possibility we could see a trial. So it depends on a lot of different things, but most people believe this case is going to get resolved outside of a trial. It's just a matter of when.
How long will that impeachment trial take?
Exactly, Ron. And that's the other question. This case, as Dan Cogdell said, and every legal analyst will tell you, this case is Persian bizarre. Everything about it's been unusual, from the county it originated in to the one that it's in now. The number of years that we have been waiting to get something happening on a court docket in a county in Texas. It's just unbelievable how long that's taken. And so today is the first time in 6 years we've seen Ken Paxton inside of a Harris County courtroom. And that's incredible and incredibly unusual in our system of justice.
Yeah, our reporter Marcelino Benito was in the courtroom, and he made the point of saying, just to point out how an example of how long this case has been going on, a lot of the evidence is on CD-ROM. So if it kind of gives you an idea of just how long this has been dragged out. But there's a newly elected Democratic judge who is hearing the case. Is that any indication as to how this case might be handled?
I think Judge Beal has made it clear how she's going to handle this case by requiring that Ken Paxton show up with every other criminal defendant in the courthouse this morning at 9 a.m. for a setting on this case. I also think it's important that she is moving it forward quickly. She has another setting on October 6th. At that time, it will be set for trial or it will be set for disposition. And I think she's taking, a strong hand towards this case to get it off the docket, get it resolved one way or the other.
His attorney, Dan Cogdell, was asked if he thought that Mr. Paxton could get a fair trial in Houston. He said he didn't know. Let's talk about the impeachment trial. Some might argue you can't have a fair impeachment trial in Texas. I mean, how far do you take this?
Right. I mean, I think it's difficult to get a fair trial in any high-profile case. This case, of course, is high-profile. We're talking about the top law enforcement officer in the state of Texas. So, you do what you can with the facts that you're given. And so the notion that no one knows anything about this case, no one knows anything about Ken Paxton is not real. But getting individuals who can stand in judgment and put their bias aside and their politics aside will be difficult, but it's something that has to happen in order for our system to work.
All right, KHOU 11 legal analyst Carmen Rowe, thank you so much for your insight. Of course, we're going to stay on top of Ken Paxton's criminal court hearing online at KHOU as well as on our KHOU 11 app. You can also catch us on Roku and Fire Stick. We'll have the very latest live at noon today.